Hi, I'm Audrey. I currently live in Jamaica, and this is going to be a sort of a slice of life story about going grocery shopping in Ethiopia. There were little shops that you could go to, and one of the, one of the ones that we really enjoyed was one of these corrugated tin shacks, and the enterprising person who owned the place had somehow found a 7-Eleven sign, or someone had given them a 7-Eleven sign, and it was posted above this, really small shack basically. This person had MREs, which are, ready to eat meals, military meals that you're supposed to just add water to. So we bought some of those for fun. Had huge 10-kilo bags of flour, about 25 pounds, bags of flour or of rice or corn or what have you, gift of the Swedish government and things like that. So it was just so crazy. But if we really wanted to do a big grocery shopping, we would go to what was the former US commissary, what they used to call the BX, or the base exchange, I believe. And it was now a lot of embassy people, not US embassy necessarily, but other embassies would go to shop at this store. It was quite restricted. The reason the teachers were able to shop there, the story was that at some point the school had allowed the guy who owned the store, the son had been allowed to bring his soccer team to the school and play on the field. There was some sort of a, tit for tat kind of agreement. So the teachers were allowed to shop at this foreigner's store. And the thing was, you would go in this store, you would never go there for a quick, you can't just go by, oh, I'm making a recipe and I forgot to get eggs, I got to go get some eggs. You would not do that at this store. It was called the Victory Store. It was within walking distance of school, which was good, but once you got there, you would get everything you needed for, as much as you could get. And anything that was unusually there, such as chocolate or cornflakes or something, you would just buy all that was there because you never knew when it was going to be back in stock, and it was very haphazard. But as you went down the aisles, you had a grocery cart. There were some things on the shelves. So things like cereal, things like canned goods and boxed goods, you could put those in your cart. But otherwise, dairy, meat, even toilet paper, which was sort of ration. This was during the Gulf War. And you couldn't just take them yourself. You had to go to the person who was in charge of that section of the store, and you had to get them to fill out a form in triplicate, and they had really long code numbers for these items you were getting. So if you're getting a dozen eggs, they had to write out these numbers with, I don't know, it's like 12 digits onto this triplicate form. And then you got one copy of the triplicate form, and you put that in your cart along with your little bit of boxed goods, pasta, whatever. And then you went to the meat counter and you did the same. And you went to the dairy counter and you did the same. And then you lined up at the checkout. And the checkout was always a really long line because, again, everyone's going there and they're buying everything they need for the next several weeks because it takes so long. So you finally get to the checkout, and the person at the checkout has to type in every one of those digits on there. This was pre, scanning or anything like that. They type them all in. And then you would pay, and you would get a typical, a ticker tape receipt like you get at a grocery store you go to in the US or wherever nowadays. And you would take that receipt and your canned goods, etc., and you would line up again to get out the store. Meanwhile, a runner would be taking the second triplicate copy of the form and going back to the meat counter, and a different runner would be going back to the dairy counter, and a different runner would be going back to where the toilet paper and, I don't know, soap, I can't remember what all else was there. And then they would come and they would bring them to you, and they would put them in your cart, and you were lining up because a last checker was going through every item in your cart, absolutely every item, and was checking off each item to make sure that everything was received in the cart, properly, and that nothing was in there that hadn't been paid for. It was insane. You could not go to the store and take less than an hour and a half, 2 hours, And that's why you would buy everything you needed for the next while, because it was, almost a whole afternoon venture. It was so crazy, but it was just part of the lifestyle that was living in Addis 30 years ago. And we loved it. It was an adventure. So that's my slice of life story for today.